guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription
is Streaming with the Lights On.
I really don't know if you're going to be able to put that in the episode, but
I'm gonna. Hey everybody, I'm Bryan.
Hello, I am Becca.
And you're listening to
Streaming with the Lights On. That was not scary at all.
You were getting sick of me doing it, and I thought...
Streaming with the Lights... No, that was worse.
Whoa, I think we just found our intro soundbite.
So bad.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad I got that on recording. Well, we hope all...
Where do we go from there?
I don't know. We hope all of our listeners are doing good. We hope that was entertaining for you. You get to hear us in crisp, clear audio now.
Well, not now. I mean, our previous episode.
Well, yeah.
PG Psycho Gorman was on a mic. I guess we don't know yet if it's crisp, clear audio, but it was on a mic.
Yeah, for those listening, we are recording and uploading episodes very off from what you're hearing. So it's probably more confusing for us than it is for you.
It is. That's true. I did want to housekeeping business.
Yeah, let's do it.
We don't have a huge listener base, but I really, really want to thank the people that do listen and that do listen every week.
Yes.
It really means a lot to, I think, both of us. I think I can speak for both of us.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you are people that we don't know and how many of you are people that we know. But either way, I just wanted to give a huge thank you because it really makes my day to know that other people, not just me, are listening to the podcast. So thank you.
I piggyback that. I used to never say piggyback. I think I just started with this podcast, which is really weird. But I piggyback what Becca said because obviously we get a joy talking about what we talk about and watching these movies. But it makes it all the more worthwhile knowing that even if it was just one person, we're making someone entertained out there. And we saw we got some listeners in the Philippines. So shout out to the Philippines.
Right. Hopefully you came back after listening to that, episode. Hopefully you're still around.
And if you do know us and you just aren't telling us, that's also very sweet. And we appreciate that.
Yes, we do. We enjoy the mystery. So as some of you may remember, I watch a lot of TV. My watching patterns have changed. They changed last week and then, obviously this weekend and all that. Just because I think when I get really stressed out, I tend to only be able to focus on one thing that I'm watching, and it has to be something that completely takes me out of my brain. So I have been watching the Fantasy High series from Dimension 20 from Dropout TV. Shout out to Liv for, again, recommending something that I absolutely am in love with. So I have been watching people play D&D all week long, and it's truly making my life so great. So yeah, that's kind of what my past week has been about. I don't think Bryan's was as fun as mine was, but if you want to go ahead and spill your beans on what you've been doing.
When you work in the film business, you work with and sometimes for a lot of people whose lives are as unhinged as yours. And that results in not knowing anything that's going on. So it took me a while to figure out not only what I was hired to do, but how I was supposed to do it. But I think it's going to be great. Well, The one thing I was able to juggle today with my busy weekend is watch our movie for this episode, which was Sea Fever.
Yes. I watched it actually today too.
Awesome.
Because yesterday I watched The Devil Made Me Do It. So today was Sea Fever.
That is wonderful. And Sea Fever came out in 2019, so 2 years ago.
Why does that feel like 5 years ago?
Yeah, it just...
Doesn't it though?
It's way too long ago.
So weird.
It is an Irish horror movie. It was directed by...
Please don't put an Irish accent on her name.
Nisa Hardiman.
I looked her up and she actually, I guess she's done a lot of like Irish TV work, but This is one of her first features, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It is currently available to stream on Hoopla, Kanopy, and Hulu, if you are so inclined. And the synopsis is the crew of a West of Ireland. That doesn't make any sense. The crew of a West Ireland trawler marooned at sea struggle for their lives against a growing parasite in their water supply. Dun dun dun.
Nice. That was...
I always have to do
yeah,
that.
no, you do. I also just finished watching it a little bit ago.
Of course. We wouldn't expect anything different.
It's much more easier for me to digest than when I tried to do it with Becky a few weeks ago. And I was left speechless from the violence. What was your first impression after watching this?
So, this reminded me of our Taking of Deborah Logan episode. I do like a Parasite movie. Well, Cabin Fever is one of my all-time favorite movies. I don't know why, because I don't know if I really like any of the rest of Eli Roth's work besides his History of Horror series. Mm-hmm. But Cabin Fever, for some reason, just connected with me. I wrote a paper on it one time. I love that movie. So I'm all about a good Parasite movie.
Nice.
But I think the biggest thing, my first note that kind of encompasses the whole, film before, we get into the nitty gritty, was I think for me, there was a lack of intensity in the movie. There was a sense of anxiety or even claustrophobia that, you would expect, from a ship kind of film like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to compare Cabin Fever a lot. Because like I said, I've seen it multiple times. And, if you take out the terrifying gore in that movie, there is a very real sense of dread throughout the whole movie. And this movie does, Sea Fever does have, a feeling of dread, but it's not intensified like it, possibly could have been.
Yeah, that's a good way to start us off. When I watch a movie from a very clear auteur, and for those out there who don't know that phrase,
it's kind of like a director who, kind of sticks with the same themes in their movies. It can also be a director that has the same style. Obviously, a Tim Burton movie, you have the style. But then you have a director like, oh my God, Darren Aronofsky.
Right.
Who his style isn't necessarily, it has similar, but he covers a lot. His main theme that he covers in all of his films is, a form of obsession. Mm-hmm. So I would consider him an auteur, but that's basically what an auteur is. It's a director that either, carries the same themes or styles throughout their body of work over time, like Hitchcock, obviously.
Yes. And auteur is French for author. So definitely with a more seasoned director, you feel like there's a very confident personality to the movie. And I definitely think about that when I watch horror movies, because some horror movies are great. Like directors are great at jump scares. Others are great at just being very calm and creepy. This movie, I couldn't quite pin down its personality. I don't think it was consistent all the time. When the what sounds like a British woman's soothing voice comes in and says you're like watching Sea Fever and talking about like the depths of the ocean, I put a note, did I accidentally start watching a National Geographic special and not click the movie?
Yeah, that was a little odd, and I don't think they revisited it again in the movie, did they?
No, and they don't revisit any kind of like cheekiness like that, because it just gets super serious from the get-go. So I did find that odd. And everything just sort of slowly boils in terms of the conflict and the danger that they're in. The danger in this movie was always slowly creeping and creeping.
Wanted to add on to what you said. I thought that they could have done a little more with atmosphere in the movie.
Yes, thank you.
I think when you think of a ship, and then you add, up north where it's cold and, it's known for great, like you kind of picture an atmosphere in your head. And I don't think that it reached that point for me. It didn't hit that creep factor.
Right.
Just the vibe of this movie. And I wanted to say, I did like this movie.
Yeah.
I would definitely watch another horror film from her. Because I think, atmosphere and intensity are definitely things that can be, learned with experience, and can be things that are not necessarily taught, but like things that you develop over time, I think, in a body of work.
No, I think you put that better. So I'll just edit that. Because I did also like the movie. I think it did some interesting things that I don't often see. And not just in terms of like a concept of the story, but just
right
in the characters and
right
decisions they make. So I thought that was really interesting, and we'll certainly get into all that. And I did want to add one more thing. For me personally, the ocean is very scary. So I'm always looking for a good horror movie that has to do with water. And one reason I like it is I like the anxiety it gives me of like being in the water.
Right.
Especially in a large body of water. It's not like being in a pool, because that's not quite as scary. Because like if it's daytime, I know nobody's in there. I can see the whole pool beneath me. That's different. But being in the ocean, and I've been in the ocean, I haven't been anywhere like away from shallow water, but I just imagine
it can get a little scary.
It's scary to imagine looking down into the blue and you can't see anything. So you don't know what's below you, but it could see you. And that's really terrifying. And I even made a note that being in water is so unnerving, because once you're in, you're vulnerable. You're at every disadvantage. Like if something wants to hurt you, it will. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. I'm a big fan of water horror movies, for lack of a better term.
Oh.
I really enjoyed Underwater, that came out right before everything shut down in 2020. I thought that was a very intense movie, especially to watch in theaters, because it's a very dark film. And then actually earlier this year, back in April, I had a little, I don't know, I was in an underwater mood. Not the movie, but like a water horror movie mood. So I watched The Abyss and Sphere in the same weekend. And one was definitely better than the other. But I do love that concept of, I think I agree that the ocean is terrifying. And I think for me, it's not so much like the abyss quality of it, or, looking into the abyss and the abyss looks back at you. It's not necessarily that. It's the fact that so much of it is unexplored.
Yes.
And
that is also really terrifying.
That is terrifying. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with a good water horror movie. And I think that this concept, especially a parasite on a ship, has not been done enough. Really, I literally can just think of that X-Files episode. That's the only other one I can think of. I mean, I'm sure that there's others and I'm just not aware of them.
I very much got vibes from John Carpenter's The Thing. I'd be shocked if they weren't paying homage to that movie when they have the scene where I cannot pronounce the main character's name, or probably most of them. Siobhan?
It's pronounced like Siobhan.
Siobhan, yes. Thank you.
I Googled it.
Thank you.
I should know, because there's a Siobhan in Dimension 20 that I should know. They say her name all the time, but it's Siobhan.
She's played by Hermione Corfield. And the main character, she tests everyone to see if they have this parasite by checking their eyes. And everyone is on edge because they don't know which one of them is going to show that they have it. But what I'm about to say, it is a big criticism. despite the fact that I do have a lot of positive things to say about the movie. And that is one thing about The Thing in that scene where they're checking each other's blood is that every bit of filmmaking in that moment works to make the audience hold their breath because they've already seen what happens to someone infected, and there's no music. There's just very like detailed sound work. So like all you hear are tiny little noises. Everyone's holding their breath, and you get that jump. In this movie, they have a similar scene of checking each other's eyes. And I thought, okay, something's going to happen or we're going to see a spooky eyeball. But they actually make the decision that when they do find that one of them is infected in the eye, they don't even show it, which was interesting. But it also felt like I was holding my breath for nothing. I don't know how much of me had this expectation as I watched the movie to be scared or to get a jump, because I never really did. There is one, and I certainly want to talk about all kinds of those moments. But the overall comment I'm making here is that for a movie that, you know, you described it as a parasite on a ship, it's kind of partly about a big creature. It's partly about the fear of the water and the unknown. It's about being isolated, stranded in the middle of the ocean. Those are all very legitimate fears. And I just feel like they could have done so much more to like acknowledge and recognize that and weave that into the filmmaking so that you're always aware and you're always built around this anxiety. I mean, just to compare, we're talking about underwater horror movies. The movie Underwater, I saw it too. I'm only going to make the comment that I thought that movie in particular did an excellent job of showing the audience what can happen when you are under a lot of pressure at the bottom of the ocean. And the movie continues to remind you that danger is always there. And they have to keep making choices that put them at risk because of the element that they're in. The element in this movie of being stranded on a ship with the unknown beneath you and trying to figure it out and what it's doing to them, I just wasn't reminded of it as much and put on the edge of my seat as much as I wish I could have been.
To question your little bit. So they weren't, obviously underwater is in the middle of the goddamn ocean. Underwater. But this one, they're not too far off the coast. So I think that kind of takes away from the isolation. Like you still do get that feeling of isolation, but they're within days of the coast.
Right.
So I think that kind of, I'm not saying it explains the reason why, but it's the reason why I think that it was harder to maybe capture that isolation as opposed to, because if you're literally in the middle of nowhere, you're in the middle of nowhere. So let's get into some positive stuff, because I feel like I've been giving this movie a hard rap, and I did like it. So let's just start with the slime. I don't think that slime is used enough in movies, unless you're thinking of, you have the Blob, which I guess is kind of slimy, or you have, positive representation of slime as Flubber. So I really liked the slime, and I liked that this is going to end on a negative note, but I liked that it was everywhere on the ship, because I like when it appears that people are just surrounded by the thing that they're afraid of, like in Cabin Fever, where that was also in their water supply. And you as the audience know that they're doing all these things with water and just infecting themselves more. And I like the fact that the slime was everywhere. And I think they really tried to make that appear terrifying. But for some reason it wasn't as scary as I would have liked it to be, but I did really like the fact that they used the slime. I thought it was an interesting take on the whole, how parasites can, how microscopic parasites can look on camera, and adds kind of like a new texture to, this kind of little subgenre. So I did really like the slime, and I thought that it was a neat touch.
Yes, I think there's a lot of cool and interesting choices they made in terms of the threat that ascends upon them. Because I thought this was going to be more of a creature feature than it really was. And that's kind of refreshing that it wasn't. Because pretty much most water-based horror movies I've seen tend to be a creature feature. And I wouldn't necessarily call this one. I guess you could, but the monster itself doesn't behave like they do in creature features.
And just to quickly add, some of them tend to freaking just make it aliens in the ocean. So I'm very happy they didn't do that. I just wanted to add that in. Continue.
Yes. They succeeded, in my opinion, of presenting a creature for the movie that just feels like a legitimate, undiscovered animal. It gives no characteristic of being humanized, being too corny, of bad CGI. It behaves in a way that we can't really understand. And while it's such a dangerous threat, it was so beautiful and slow moving and serene and very calm. And that just adds to the eeriness of it. So I think they did an excellent job in the concept of the monster for this movie, which basically just looks like a giant glowing
squid kind of thing. Or to add on to what you were saying about the creature, I don't want to jump to the end, but this is what I wanted to add because it fits in what you were saying. I liked that the movie overall didn't have a message of let's just kill the unknown because it's trying to kill us, which I think unfortunately happens a lot in these kind of nature creature feature movies. Us as humans, obviously, are very excellent at destroying animals of any shape or size, especially ones that pose some kind of threat to us. So I really liked that at the end of the movie, they release the creature back into the ocean instead of just murdering it. I will say, I mean, typically the moral road is suggested in these kind of movies, but it rarely wins out. So I like that they, number one, like you said, they treated the creature like a creature and they didn't humanize it. They didn't, go overboard with the CGI to make it the movie Meg, an oversized shark kind of thing,
right? Which
I do love Meg. Meg is a fun time and a half. But I think they did a good job of making it just something that's found in nature. And I think I really appreciated that the movie kept that message all the way through.
Yeah. My one complaint about the monster, because I did put one tiny thing, and it's just overall a criticism about things that happen underwater in movies. The first time that Siobhan goes into the water and sees these tentacles that float at her with teeth, I think it hisses and makes a sound. I don't think you'd hear that in the water.
It's like the spaceship's making noise in space.
Yeah, you wouldn't hear that. And so it didn't take me out of it. I was like, come on. But it didn't happen again, so that was nice. I did want to say, because I made a comment earlier, there was one surprise for me. I guess it wasn't a jump.
Wonder if it was the same one that I wrote down too.
Another homage to The Thing is when Siobhan and a couple of the other crew members see this ghost ship and they board the vessel and they find the dead crew. You can assume it has to do with the same creature, but you're not quite sure, and you're not sure how things played out the way that they did when they find the bodies. It sets up your expectations of what could happen to them. So that night, one of them is sort of getting a little stir crazy. And it's the first time we discover that there are things in their eyes. And when we first discover that, the eyeballs just explode. And I wasn't expecting that, even though we saw the body earlier from the other ship that had their eyes gouged out. I just assumed they gouged their eyes out or something.
Right. I think that's the assumption, especially as horror fans, that either their eyes have been cut out. That's the first place my brain goes to. Yeah, that was actually what I wrote down too. I wrote the first death was unexpected.
Yeah.
Especially how quickly it happened, because, there's the usual buildup, with a a parasite, a virus, where they start to show symptoms. And, at that point, we didn't know what the symptoms were. And then I think also the eyes exploding was not something that I was expecting. And it was something that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I wrote also the originality of the eyes exploding was epic. There's a great X-Files episode where they test release of virus in a prison. And they have these really disturbing scenes of like these boils pulsing.
Oh.
Do you know what episode I'm talking about?
I think so.
And then they kind of explode, like explode pus, and it's disgusting. I don't think that eyes are used enough for that. I think we get a lot of stabbing in the eyes, but I don't think that they're used enough as a way to terrify us, because obviously, the eyes are one of the most important things on our...
They're the window to your soul.
Right. So I thought that was a really original idea of how, the virus affects you. And I think it can be really hard with that kind of movie to make it original in terms of what happens to the body. But I think they really nailed it in that respect, because I don't think it's something that you're expecting. And it's something that gets into the other characters' heads too, because, you get that sensation of their eyesight goes fuzzy and then they go blind and then pop, you have no more eyes.
Although I appreciated that it didn't happen again, because kind of like a virus, not everyone has the same symptom,
right?
And it affects them differently. So it was nice that everyone had a different death and they were not really all gimmicks.
Right. And I would say most of the deaths, well, maybe like half of the deaths were not related to the virus, because you had the first death and then you had the guy who gets cut up in the shower, which again, another great scene, because I fully expected him to just like swallow the water and get the parasite that way. But no, this parasite just fucking attacks on top of the skin, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So he dies of the virus, and then, the ant falls and hits her head, and that's how she dies. And then the other guy either kills himself or his wife kills him.
Which that was a very bold choice to show, because they show that they're holding the knife, and the next time you see them, he's dead and his wife is stepping out, and it's not clear if he killed himself in front of her, if she did it for him. But I was like, oh, they went there.
And just a side note, for all of my romantic comedy, romantic drama fans, the captain in this movie played the prince in Ever After. So if he looks familiar, yet a little older, because I looked at him in the movie, I was like, who is that guy? And he played Prince Charming in Ever After.
Wow. You always have good trivia.
All right, well, I'm going to bring it to morality. Bring in my philosophy. Not really philosophy, but like my degree of some kind. Who knows? So basically, at the end of the film, most of the crew, except for, Siobhan, want to go back to shore. And Siobhan is like, no, we need to quarantine ourselves. We don't want to like release this on the population. And I really enjoyed how there were no good options. Because on the one hand, you can see Siobhan's point. If this gets out into any kind of water supply, it can take out people pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they let the authorities know. And then so they provide the, means to possibly find out how to treat this to the medical community. So there's morality on either side. There's no, like I said, there's no right or wrong decision on this. It's kind of choosing from two, not great decisions, which is what life is most of the time. So yeah, I just thought the movie did a very, very good job of putting that morality into a genre that doesn't always have it, I think. At the beginning of the film, it's very clear in the conversation she has with her professor, and just even her placement in the first scene of the film. She's separate from her classmates. She quarantines herself off from people in order to protect herself. I mean, one could make the argument that she has grown by the end of the film to quarantining to protect other people and not just herself.
Yeah. And she did end up saving one person, as far as we could tell.
She did.
The wife ends up leaving. And I, you know, again, it was nice to see that everyone had a different fate.
Right.
We don't really know hers. She didn't commit suicide. And I didn't get the impression that she would, but she kind of just gave up on...
She gave up on her ship.
On any hope.
Well, she gave up on her ship, I think.
And that's what I mean, because her hope was her ship at many points in the movie, because we see her as a character. We see how important the ship is to her and what it symbolizes, and their lost child. And so, you know, with everything that happens to them and the fact that she's going to have to lose her husband and he dies either because he killed himself or she killed him for him, she's just deflated from any hope. And that's when she says it's just a ship. Like, she gave up on the ship,
right,
and left. And so that was nice. Everyone had their own sort of conclusion, but she did save one person. So, you know, she wasn't really a superhero that saved the whole day, but she saved one person. In her case, sometimes it was hard to pin down her motivation behind certain decisions. Not a lot, but like near the end, she made a bold decision to go save him. They think they're about to be saved, and then discover that she's infected. So now she has to process that. And then she makes a decision to jump and swim down to the monster. I don't know. It's such an impulse move that on the one hand, I guess I can't criticize it too much, but it was very pretty. Like, it was very pretty to watch her swim down to this beautiful but deadly thing. But I had a little wee bit of a hard time having my disbelief suspended for doing that.
I mean, but how else was she going to kill herself?
I don't know if they had, like, the knife that they had earlier in the movie. I don't know if...
Yeah, but, like, if she would have slit her throat or slit her wrist or done something with a knife, her blood would have come out and that would have been infected, and it would have infected him. I agree with you that it was a little... It
was very theatrical for how grounded.
It was a little odd, but I didn't see she had another choice of how to get rid of herself so she didn't infect him.
I guess there are other ways to choreograph that and film it. I mean, she could have simply gone to the water and, you know, swam there until they pulled her down. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not saying that it was a huge thing that bothered me. I'm just saying that it was something that definitely... It just pulled me out a little bit with how surreal that felt. But... It was very well shot, so that made up for it, because it was beautiful to see her swim down to it, and the monster was just beautiful and deadly, and I appreciated that. I also appreciated this is a quick note, that same scene when she rescues him underwater from the tentacles grabbing him. I loved the tentacles because, again, nothing felt like a big Marvel superhero CGI thing. And I think when in that scene, when she swims down and pulls the tentacle off him and pushes it away, however they filmed that, I think they used actual physical props, because it definitely had a texture and mobility to it that made me think this is like a real prop that they're grabbing and moving around. And I really appreciated that, because this thing, again, it just like... It's so eerie to see these deadly, dangerous things just kind of float around, and they're not vipers. They don't swim around and grab you and hit. And, well, they did hiss, but yeah. So I just really like the texture in this movie, kind of back to what you said about the slime. And I think they had a really good eye for that.
Do you want another piece of trivia?
Yes.
So Hermione Corfield was in The Last Jedi.
I looked that up and saw that by accident.
Oh, damn it. I wanted to be like, oh, wow, Becca, you're so cool. You know how to use IMDb.
Hold on. Wait a second. Give it a pause. I'm going to edit this.
Okay.
What? Get out of here. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. That is incredible. All right. Was that convincing?
Yes, thank you for feeding my ego.
You're welcome.
So did you have anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
I mean, I took a moderate amount of notes, which to me says my attention drifted a little from the movie. I don't know that I can fully blame the movie. I know there's other factors. That said, I still appreciate what it set out to accomplish. I appreciate that it was not trying to be the jump scare movie I expected it to be, that it is bold enough to take its time. So I really liked a lot of choices made here. I, too, would be excited to see what this director does next. And I'd say there's rewatchability. You have to be in the right mood for it. It's not what I would call a super entertaining movie as a popcorn flick, but it's very thoughtful. It makes you think about a lot of, I guess that's what thoughtful means. It's very thought-provoking, and it raises a lot of questions of morality and science, biology, how we look at other living things. So I would certainly watch it again. So with that being said, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Sweet. So my final thoughts. First of all, beware the glare for this movie. I would suggest watching it in a dark room or at night. The glare isn't too bad, and there are some daytime scenes, but I always recommend bewaring the glaring for like water-based horror movies because, you know, they tend to be on the darker side. So my final thoughts on this movie. I definitely agree with you that the rewatchability is there. I think this would be an excellent addition if someone like me dive into have a water horror day. This would definitely be a great addition to that.
Yes.
I think it's unique in that like sub category.
You're full of puns right now.
I didn't even think of that. But yeah, like I said, the rewatchability is there. It's not one that I'm going to own. I don't think. I wish my mood would have been better when I watched it.
Yeah.
But overall, I did like it. I think my issues with it were not major. I think this might be the first episode ever I did not complain about a plot hole. I don't think that's ever, I don't know if that's happened.
Wow, that's true. Yeah.
Or if it has happened, it has not happened that often. So that's pretty impressive.
I didn't recognize any exposition problems.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that I had some issues. I think the atmosphere and intensity could have been better, but I really liked the characters and I liked the plot and I liked how they treated the parasite and the creature and what the parasite did to the human body. I thought was gross in a very good way. So yeah, funny story. I would also give it a 3.5 out of 5.
All right, solid. We did it.
I love when we don't have to do math. Like, it just makes everything so much better.
I know.
So much better.
Yeah, I will just give a fun little, it's not really trivia. It's just a little note about underwater horror movies. Apparently, in my internet digging while we recorded, DC is making a Aquaman movie spinoff, which is a horror movie.
Interesting.
Called The Trench. So I don't know anything about that. I just thought that was interesting. You know, horror is alive and well at the bottom of the sea. And to all of our listeners out there, thanks so much for tuning in and continuing to tune in. Hit us up. Let us know your thoughts on Sea Fever. You can hit us up on our social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are Streaming with the Lights On podcast. That's also our email address. You can email us with thoughts, questions, concerns at streamingwiththelightson@gmail.com.
And I'm going to say this because I don't think you remember our Letterboxd account, which I just logged.
Yes.
The film is SWTLO. If you would like to follow us there.
We will follow you back.
Yes, we will. Our next movie, how do I put this?
Well, you give the title.
Excited is not a big enough word for how I feel about this movie.
Oh, gosh.
I have been wanting to see this movie ever since I saw the poster. I go trailer free I like to say trailer 3 since 93, but that's not real. I just like it to rhyme. Because trailers spoil me. But we are watching Saint Maud. I'm so excited for this movie.
Good.
So no idea. It's been a struggle to like wait to watch it. And it is currently available to watch on Amazon Prime or Hulu.
Sweet.
So if you would like to join in my excitement with me, you can check it out there before our next episode comes out. And if Bryan doesn't enjoy it, you can listen to me murder him.
Yeah.
Because that will happen.
It very well could.
And I haven't seen it. So I guess there is a likelihood that I will hate it, but I really doubt it. So just tune in for Bryan's murder if he doesn't like it.
I guess that about does it. As always, and always will be unless I got my name changed, I'm Bryan.
I am Becca.
And we will stream you later.
And this has also been Streaming with the Lights On.
Yes.
So,
if you weren't aware, the past hour you've been listening to Streaming with the Lights On. And goodbye.